Good morning and welcome to this Daily Vox Hangout. We apologize for the delay. We had some technical hitches, but we're here now with Miss South Africa 2015, Liesl Laurie. Good morning, Liesl.
Good morning. How are you?
Good, thanks. I'm glad you could make it. I know you have a really busy schedule.
Yes.
Um,
I'm
so,
really
um,
honored to be a part of everything, so thank you so much.
no worries. It's very funny. I was at the gym this morning, and you know they have those funny videos playing in the background while you're cycling or whatever, and you were there with Cameron. Who's the swimmer?
Cameron van der Berg and
That
Gugu
one.
Zulu.
That's it. That's it. And I didn't have headphones, so I couldn't hear what you guys were saying. But yeah, you must be on a bit of a roller coaster after winning. How's things going?
Absolutely. It's been a whirlwind, it's been a roller coaster, but it's been absolutely amazing. I've had so much fun. I've gone shopping, I've visited orphanages, I've done a little bit of everything, so it's kind of given me a taste of what the year will be like.
Cool. So what is your day like now that you've won and you're Miss South Africa? You seem like you're very busy. I mean, I know we had to kind of squeeze this interview in between lots of different things. What is like an average day for you like?
So the average day is very early, first of all. So I'm up every day around 4. And then after that, we have a few interviews. We have the media here and there, and obviously visiting my various organizations. Yesterday, I was working on the campaign for Cell-C Take a Girl Child to Work, doing the voiceovers and getting ready and prepping for that event and that day. Yeah, so it's just very early, very late, and then prepping and getting ready for obviously the following day while you're doing the day's work already.
Okay. Now, one of our readers, she sent us an email, Taylor Ann Smith. She said, what would your daily routine consist of if you hadn't won Miss SA? What would that have been like?
It maybe would have started a little bit later, maybe at like 7 and not 4. But I think that it would have been pretty much the same. I believe that I was born for this. So I think that my light would have shined bright whether I won or not. I still think I would have been on radio interviews and television interviews. Obviously not as much as the winner, but I believe that it was for me. And then secondly, I also think that it would have consisted of a little bit more early nights. No, I kid. But I think it would have been pretty much the same. Visiting my organizations that I worked with last year, same as I do now, and just doing everything in the media to obviously have all the pull that I can use to obviously work with the different organizations.
Okay. So what were you doing last year?
What was I doing last year? I graduated last year, April. That means I finished my degree, obviously, the year before. And after graduating, I just didn't feel ready to go into the world of, obviously, what do you call it, the corporate industry, sitting in an office 9 to 5, and I decided to then Google and search for different organizations that I felt would be close to my heart, and then I was a volunteer at Babies Behind Bars. It's an organization that takes care of young kids that are born in prison. So for instance, if a lady was sentenced while she was pregnant and she gave birth, the baby would then stay in prison for 2 years, and in those 2 years we took care of those kids. So I worked with that organization, and then just reading up on different organizations in the whole of South Africa with different South Africans, I came across the Charlize Foundation, and also the founder of Babies Behind Bars helped me set up my NPO called the Pearl Project. And then I started focusing also a lot on the Pearl Project and just looking after young girls in smaller communities. I obviously started where I grew up in Eldorado Park, Soweto area, just working with the young girls at EW's primary school, the primary school which I attended. Just
So
having
just to
a
interrupt
little
you, what does the Pearl Project actually entail?
So it's a motivational and upliftment group. It's a beacon of hope club for young girls. So I visit different schools and I speak to them about growing up in Eldorado Park, growing up in a small community. And I think what makes it real for them is them knowing that I grew up there. I live down the street from some of those girls. So it's not the whole situation of, because I knew when I was growing up and somebody came to talk to me at school, I always had that thought of, but she doesn't know. But then with them, they actually do know that I know how it feels to grow up in a small community, to grow up in a back room without a mom, without a dad, all of those things. So they link their lives closer to mine easily. And I think that's the difference that I have with talking to, obviously, girls and boys in smaller communities.
It's interesting that you mentioned that after you won Miss South Africa, there was a lot of comment on Twitter and Facebook and stuff like that, things going, oh, she's from Eldorado Park, oh, the only thing that comes out of Eldorado Park is drugs. or a lot of negative comments like that. What did you make of that sort of reaction?
I was glad that for a change, it was the light shining on Eldorado Park. It was the rainbow and the sunshine, because I think that people tend to focus on the bad things. Eldorado Park is so much more than obviously drugs, alcohol, and abuse. It has the Ubuntu factor, the thing we talk about to every international person about South African being about Ubuntu. Eldorado Park and small communities have that, because your mom is my mom and your sister is my sister. We all grow up as a community, as a family. It's literally that quote that says it takes a village to raise a girl or to raise a kid. That's exactly that. That whole community has raised me, and they've all had a part of who I am today.
I saw a story, I think it was in the Sowetan, which spoke about your mum who used to be addicted to drugs, and she overcame that, thankfully, and now she's a teacher. Can you tell me a little bit about some of those challenges that you faced growing up? You mentioned living in a back room behind someone's house. Can you explain a little bit more about that?
So I was fortunate enough to never actually live in the back room. My aunts and uncles do, and I visited there. And for me, it was very exciting to visit with them rather than stay at home with my gran. But I was blessed to have my grandmom in my life. She took care of me, and I think she shielded me away from many of the things that could have harmed me negatively. But I don't think that the whole drugs and alcohol being with my mom was a negative thing altogether. It taught me how to be independent, taught me how to be strong, and it taught me how to persevere, because I believe that no matter what happened in her life, I always said to myself that I would never want to end up there. So I always took everything that I did very seriously, and I always stayed focused on obviously what I wanted. No matter what derailed me from it, I just remembered that I wanted to be a certain thing and I wanted to do a certain thing. So I stick to my rules, I stick to my guns, and I stayed focused on obviously what I wanted.
And I mean, you've done very well. Not only have you won Miss South Africa 2015, so for a year you're going to have a lot of privileges and a lot of great events and opportunities. But you studied your BCom and you graduated, and I think this is something that kids who grow up in poor neighborhoods or rough neighborhoods often have a challenge, even just finishing school or getting into university in the first place. What for you, what are some of the challenges that children who grow up in those communities face? And what do you think is the biggest thing that we can do to help kids who come from that background?
Okay, so first of all, the main thing that we struggle with is kids don't know that there are financial aids and bursaries. I think they know of the bursary factor, but then they're worried about the fact that maybe they didn't get all straight A's. And sometimes a bursary needs someone who is absolutely brilliant at school. But nobody in Eldorado Park knows about financial aid. Because I remember when I was in varsity, I'd always have aunts and uncles asking me, how are you studying? Who's paying for it? And I'm like, well, I'm actually paying for it, but I'll pay for it later on. And with financial aid, obviously, if you do well in school, they deduct from the amount that you're supposed to pay back. So I think it's just letting the kids know, letting the children in different schools know that there is a way for you to study, even if your parents can't afford it. It's about you working hard, because that financial aid can fall away altogether if you do really well at school. So the challenge there is letting them know that there is another way. If mom and dad can't afford it, if you didn't maybe get straight A's and get a bursary, and there's only so much bursaries one company can give, then you can go on financial aid, and that's exactly how I did it. I ended up modeling and paying for my studies as I went along, paying off the financial aid.
Okay. And beauty pageants. You told us a little bit about last year doing charity work and volunteering, and I think, props to you for that. It's not something that a lot of people do. But why did you decide, okay, beauty pageants, this is something that I'm going to do now?
Why did I decide it? Well, for me, I needed a platform to obviously get the Pearl Project, get all the organizations that I was working with on another level and get more sponsors in. And something like a beauty pageant is definitely giving you that. It's a step up from everything, and it's a step up to everything you'll need, because your sponsors become your family. And I think that if you run to them and say, look, I need you to do this, that, and that for this organization that I'm working with, they'll try their utmost best to obviously do it, because they are linked to the brand that is Miss South Africa or any other pageant that has sponsors.
That's fascinating. I've never actually thought about it that way before. So you went into beauty pageants in part because you actually wanted to help the organizations you were already helping. That's incredible. I've got a question that's come in here, and it says on what you said about financial aid. Are you talking about the NSFAS, the National Students Financial Aid Scheme? Is that the funding that you had, or was it another mechanism?
So I was on the NSFAS one, but there are different ones. I know a few of my friends were on EduLoan. There's also ones you can go to the bank with. All you need is like an adult, and it's not necessarily an adult that's working or that earns a big salary, just someone to sign and to make sure that they'll help you, not necessarily help you, but make sure that you obviously do take care of those loans. So almost like a grandfather, someone that they can trust and someone that they know will help you and keep you in line with obviously getting back to paying those payments back. So there's many different ones, but the one I knew about was the NAFSIS one, and then there's EduLoan, and then there's the bank ones that you can obviously just go to and try and get them to help you out as well.
So you said that a lot of young kids growing up don't know about these. How did you know?
How did I know? I went to an open day at I think at UJ or Wits when I was in grade 10. We were actually forced to go by the school, and I'm glad that we were forced, and I'm glad that I went, because that's how I came about. I took a flyer in one of the foyers while we were waiting to get our accreditation, and I just chucked it in my bag, and one day in the car I was reading about it, and then I knew, I was like, I must remember this name or remember this what it's called, so that I can think about it in the future, obviously when I do get to varsity. So when I told my gran I was interested in going obviously to varsity, she then gave me that look with, I don't know if we'll be able to pull it off. And I said to her, no, but there is a way. We just need to go and find out. I know I read about it somewhere once upon a time. We just need to find out where it is, what it's about, and how I apply for it. So it was almost a coincidence that I did find out about it. I just grabbed a flyer in a foyer somewhere, and it stuck in my mind.
That's great. I mean, that's very fortuitous, actually. To get back to beauty pageants, did you watch Miss South Africa growing up? I was just talking to my husband about this morning, and he's one of these people who sort of goes, "Oh, beauty pageants, roll eyes, how lame, nobody can watch that." And then I told him, "But don't you remember when we were kids? This is like Sunday evening, the whole family sat there, everybody watched it. It was a big deal." So I think now a lot more people are on the fence about it. Did you watch it when you were growing up, and do you think that beauty pageants are still relevant today?
I definitely watched it growing up. It was one of those things where I said to myself, wow, I want to be there. I want to be that girl. I remember seeing Claudia Henkel getting crowned, and I said to my mom, I hope I grow that tall, which she laughed about, obviously, at that time. But for me, it was that beacon of hope. It was that sunshine, that glitter in your life. You know, sometimes you just need a little bit of sparkle in your life. And I do know that when you're young, you look at it from one perspective only, and that's the perspective of beauty, glitz, and glamour. I know when I was 13, all I thought about was I want to be famous, I want to be beautiful, I want to have long curly hair, like all of those things. But then when you grow older, you almost find out what it's about before you do. Well, I know before I do something, I'll research it properly and know what it's about. Then you realize that this can actually help someone. And I absolutely do believe that it's relevant in this day and age. If you look at Rolene going on to win Miss World, I think she brought it back to South Africa. People are far more interested in what Miss South Africa and Miss World is now, thanks to her. And then secondly, also the top 12 of Miss South Africa all have jobs now, thanks to Cell C. They all have been offered jobs. They all have been offered many things by the sponsors, by the people that were a part of the whole process. So is it relevant? Yes, because it gives a step up to the girls that were a part of the pageant. Yes, most of them had jobs, most of them are studying, but they have almost like that saying, the world is your oyster. They have so many things to choose from now. It uplifted them. It gave them more courage. It also worked on their confidence. And it's just a part of walking away from it much, much richer, whether it be in the sense of having a new job or having a job offer, or just having that camaraderie about knowing how to live and work with people. I think that all of us walked away as sisters, as good friends. And if that's the only thing you take away from the pageant, then that's just great, because it's about knowing your country, loving your country, and then loving the people in your country, obviously. And living with 12 girls, you'll definitely learn that.
I think in a sense it's almost like, when I was thinking about it this morning, it's kind of like before reality TV, there was beauty pageants where, you'd pick someone to support or back, and that was your person that you hoped would win. And then there was this, the competition element of it, before American Idol.
Yeah.
Pop Idol and all of that stuff. So I kind of see it on that level as well. But you mentioned Rolene Strauss and all the other competitors that you are up against. Do you or any of them, do you ever feel a sort of discomfort about the idea of using your body or your beauty to promote a cause or promote a company?
I don't think you use your body in the sense. It's more about spokesmodels. As Miss South Africas and as Miss World, you don't. It's not a beauty shot or a shot for a magazine. It's more about the pull that you have and about the voice that you have. So I think where in this sense, in Miss South Africa's sense, you use your voice more than your body. And I'm more than happy to stand for something, to stand for an event. Just before we came on, we spoke about the 67 blankets campaign. That's me using my hands and my fingers and obviously my voice as Miss South Africa to promote that brand. So using my body, using all those other things, no. But using my mind, using my voice, and using my title to promote a brand that obviously needs help, I'm all for that.
Yeah, just to let that, and I think that was a great answer. It's almost like being on the show again. You know, when you get the questions at the end. I see why they picked you to win. Just to fill people in, before we went live with this broadcast, I was chatting to Liesl about what she did for her 67 minutes for Mandela last year, and I read somewhere that she'd been knitting blankets. So I thought, oh, cool, you know, we're both crafters because I like crocheting. Do you still knit? And also, what are you going to do for your 67 minutes this year?
So just to correct you, the 67 minutes for this year is the knitting of the blankets. So we're trying to knit 21,000 blankets for Mandela Day because 21 years of democracy. That's why. And so we've started now because it's going to be a bit impossible to do 21,000 blankets on one day. So the campaign has been running for the past few months, and that's what I've been working on. I will be honest, I don't knit really well, and the top 12 girls actually showed me how to knit. My blanket isn't the greatest one, but it's all about helping someone and it's all about giving back. So yes, I can knit, but I haven't been knitting for a long time. It's probably like 2 months now that I'm doing it, and I just sit by the TV and I go for it. And sometimes I do the opposite of what knitting actually is, and then I call someone, I'm like, what am I supposed to do? Let's Skype, or one of those moments. So that's what I'm doing for this year, 67 minutes. It's one of the projects. There's also many other projects that we will be letting the media and the public know about closer to the date.
Okay, that'll be interesting. I don't know about knitting, but I might crochet a blanket.
So you can crochet a piece. Will you crochet a block for us to add to one of our blankets?
Totally.
Absolutely.
So you must send it to like a square for you. Why not?
Yes. What we ask people is, if you can't do a whole blanket, do a square, and we add all the squares and create one big blanket, obviously.
That's fantastic. Okay, cool. Maybe we'll talk afterwards about some contact details or website or something where we can get more information about that. I'm
Absolutely.
So another question that came through from @TruthHurtsXX on Twitter says, ask her how she's going to use her reign to uplift and create a voice for colored people. Is this something that is you feel strongly about, creating a voice for and uplifting colored people? And do you feel like you need to?
Okay. Are we still? Yes, I think. Am I still on? My computer just. Sorry about that. It's more about creating a voice for females. It's about creating a voice for your whole country. It's not about, because we're all South Africans at the end of the day. I remember when I was in primary school, or I don't know if it was closer to high school, where I went home one day and I asked my grand, I'm like, why do they call me colored? And she was like, you know what, baby, you don't worry about that. You're South African. So for me, it's not about a certain race or a certain ethnic group. It's about a voice for all females, a voice for all youth, a voice for all, the whole of the country, if you understand what I'm saying. It's not about just one certain point. And I do want to be the voice for people. I believe that my story and where I come from and who I am, everyone can see a little bit of themselves in me, and I want to be that voice for each and every person, whether it be the little girl in Soweto or the older gentleman in the north of Johannesburg. I just want to be that voice for each and every person.
Okay. This is a toughie from it's at Mbali Ntuli, and she says, ask her about the statues. Now, I'm not sure how closely you've been following this issue, It started at UCT with a campaign called Rhodes Must Fall. They have a statue there of Cecil John Rhodes, who was an imperialist and a colonialist. And it's in a place of pride on the campus. And they've been trying to get that statue removed, this group of students. And actually, the statue is going to be removed today. But since then, it's really caught on across the country, and there's been a lot of debate, discussion, some vandalism of the statues, people calling for other statues to be removed around the country. Are you following this? And if so, what do you think should happen to statues of people who have had a negative impact on the people of South Africa in the past?
So I believe that what we're doing as a country, obviously as a democratic country, is to listen to the people. And I believe that each one has a voice, and I'm proud to have my voice too. And I believe that the youth having their voices is something great, something that we can show other countries that you see everyone has a part in whatever happens in the country. So for that, I salute the youth, I salute the country. Second, if the statue should be removed, I think it should be placed in maybe an historical museum, because I think it's still something that we need to know about. Maybe the youth feels that putting it in the middle of the university or at the university is almost giving it like praise. But I don't think it should be removed altogether. It should be put in a museum where kids can go and learn about it, because it's still something that we need to know about. It's still the history that we need to learn about in the future. So putting it back in a museum, I'm all for that, because we need to know about our history and our heritage and where we come from. Maybe removing it because we do need to listen to our youth. We do need to listen to the voice of the country, because that's what we fought for as a democratic country, is listening to them, and then moving the statue but not removing it altogether.
I think there's a lot of people who feel the same way about that. So just to sort of wrap up, what do you have coming up for the rest of the year? What are the big events that you are working towards now?
So firstly, it's the CELSI Take a Girl Child to Work Day. It's all about girls being empowered. It will be all over the media. It happens on the 28th of May. And then obviously working with the Pearl Project on a higher scale, so visiting various communities around South Africa, not just in Johannesburg. And then further on in the year, I have been gifted 200,000 Rand by CELSI to do random acts of kindness for charities, and I've just come across one over the weekend. But as we go on throughout the year, I'll be revealing those charities. I'll be revealing how much I'll be gifting to the charity and how much of my sponsors will be helping those charities. So for now, what I can tell you is Take a Girl Child to Work Day by CELSI. It's the Pearl Project, and obviously focusing on what I did last year. And then there's an Hadassah Center for Women in the south of Johannesburg that I just met with on Saturday with the 67 blankets, and I'd love to give back to them too, because those young ladies just touched my heart with their perseverance and their determination to obviously have the world to continue living, even though life didn't always go their way, though things didn't go their way, they obviously do have the determination, and that for me is something that I salute and I'm really proud to be a part of.
Great, that sounds like some really cool projects. We have one last question, and I'm going to ask it because it's from someone from Eldorado Park. It's Asia from Diamant Street. She says, what's the most difficult lesson that you've learned today? Did you catch that?
Can you please repeat the question?
So Asia from Diamant Street says, what's the most difficult lesson that you've learned to date?
To date. So there's two. For the Miss SA pageant, it was understanding that there can only be one winner. So that will be how it is throughout life, that at the end of the day, you almost have to, it's a bittersweet moment of, these are my friends, but I have to focus on myself. So it's about trusting yourself and loving yourself and having enough faith in yourself, even though there's so many aspects around you that will take away from obviously the whole idea of you being able to pull off something. And then secondly, the most difficult thing, or the thing that I learned in the time, it was difficult, but now it's almost like my motto is, no matter how far down you fall, you can always dust yourself up and try again. So for me, that's one of the things I always tell to my friends, and I learned that from my mom, obviously, with her recovering from everything she went through. That doesn't matter. You can lose your job. You can end up on the street. You can do lose absolutely everything. But if you have that courage to then stand up, dust yourself off, and try again, then you've already won, you know. And for me, I also had to do that. We all get to points in our lives where you feel like nothing's working out and nothing's going right. And that was one of the pivotal points just before I turned 21, to absolutely say to myself that no matter what comes in my way, I'll fall down, I'll have my cry, but I'll get right up and I'll try again.
Fantastic. Liesl, thank you so much for joining us this morning. I've had so much fun chatting to you, and I really wish you all the best.
Thank you so much. I've had such a great time too. It's been really, really fun. And please, I don't mind if you invite me again to chill on the Hangout. It's been really, really amazing.
We might do that. And we'll definitely want to find out a bit more about what our readers, if they're interested in knitting the 67 blankets or crocheting blocks for the blankets, please pass on the details to us, okay?
Absolutely. I can give you a few of the details now.
Yes, go ahead.
You can visit www.67blankets.com. There's also a Twitter handle @67blankets, and the founder of 67 Blankets on Twitter is Carolyn Stain. So I'll also SMS you or email you those details so that you up on obviously your social media involved in the whole project, and then also everyone to visit Take a Girl Child to Work celsi.co.za/girlchild, just to obviously find out how they can get involved in that initiative too.
Great stuff. Thanks again, and I hope you have a wonderful day going forward, and don't get to bed too late.
I won't. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.